Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures, and it's Friday, so I bring to you yet another obscurity in literature. And what a wonderful time to present this piece of literature. This is Jan Strad and Richard Corben's Mutant World stories. And so this was originally put out on Kickstarter. Somehow or other, I missed the Kickstarter, picked it up afterwards, and missed the opportunity to get a signed copy, which is really sad because obviously, with Richard Corben no longer with us, unfortunately, the announcement that I saw this week was that Dark Horse is moving ahead with the republication of a lot of Corben's key books. You know, the original Den, Den 2, I want to say there's another book. But, you know, I have longed to read that stuff in a nice, updated, collected format. And I know I've been following Jose Villarrubia's social media stuff where he's been showing off because he's going to be doing a lot of the recolorations and updating of everything, and just the amount of work and love and care that has gone into that process of bringing those stories back is just super exciting. And I know the first Den book comes out in August of 23, so you can pretty much guarantee, I don't know how I'm going to get that past the censors on YouTube. I will try anyway. I mean, I have read it like as PDF rips of old copies of Heavy Metal when it was first being, serialized back in the day. I mean, I even owned a few of those old issues. I never read in chronological order the original stuff. I mean, obviously, I've seen the old Heavy Metal movie, so I was very well aware of what Den was. Having been, I don't even know. I mean, I probably discovered Corben and his work back in the early 90s, and I 100% have the library, the local library to blame, because they had the old NBM graphic novel version of Ellison's Vic and Blood, A Boy and His Dog, which they made the movie on with Patrick Swayze, I believe. And that kind of set me down the road. And for some reason, I even was already aware of who he was at that time. I don't know why. I don't know how. But yeah, I knew what Den was. And like I've mentioned before, there was this old video, VHS tape, and I swear I'd found it once on YouTube that went into like the masters of comic artwork, and they had a big thing on Corben. And I mean, he was a master. It was like him and Mobius and like Jimenez, and I mean like big name Pratt, really, giants in their fields. And I have no clue what that video series was called. And there was a series of them. If you guys ever come across that stuff, please, God, please let me know. Point it out to me. I would absolutely love to take that trip back down memory lane. Like I said, it was the early 90s. How I was familiar with that stuff again, I don't know. I mean, I can remember reading about Fanagore Press. I feel like my brother, not Sparkletrot, the other one, I feel like the two of us somehow got a hold of like mail order stuff, because I know we have like the old Fanagore Press collected early Corben prints. And I mean, when we realized he did a lot of like the old Lone Wolf and Cub covers, not Lone Wolf and Cub cover, just Lone Wolf, the Joe Deaver books, the Choose Your Own Adventure types. He did a bunch of those covers. I know book 5 in particular he did, with the, what were they called? I don't remember. The mage dudes in green was like on the back of like a pteranodon thing fighting with a, vaguely Arabian-inspired monster djinn guy. Anyways, Sands of Time or something? I don't remember. But I remember coming across issues of the original Son of Mutant World, and I feel like they were in black and white. I have this distinct feeling they were in black and white. They may even mention that at some point, but I'm pretty sure they were. And I remember having old copies of like Rip in Time and some of the later Den stuff that he was drawing in traditional comic form. We had some of those. Definitely had that stuff. So it's just kind of cool to see that finally, I mean, all these years later, coming back. This book, sadly, I don't know if that's going to be coming back via Dark Horse. This was put out, like I said, on Kickstarter, kind of like a labor of love type thing. And it's kind of cool to see because I am aware, and they even mention it, Dran Strad here has a whole blurb about how the original publication, when Warren was putting out the magazine 1984 in kind of competition with Heavy Metal Magazine, with Epic Illustrated that Marvel was doing, that was Warren's answer to the more adult-themed, sci-fi, intellectualism of the time, adult graphic fantasy, for lack of a better word. But when it was published under Warren, and I've seen some of those issues, it just had awful dialogue. The editors went back and rewrote it. It's garbage. It's seriously hot garbage. And so it's kind of cool that this collects all that. And for the first time that I can ever recall seeing, they have all of the Son of Mutant World stuff in here collected, which I don't think ever had a collected paperback even in the United States or in an English-speaking country. So this is kind of a first for us as well. And what's interesting is I had never read this story, and I had kind of an idea of where the sequel goes, and they are quite interlinked. I didn't know that at the time. So that was kind of a cool little tidbit that all these years later I was able to uncover. And I mean, Corben's art was always interesting to me. I mean, he really just... the colors and the process he went through, and just, he was one of those guys that just kind of did his own thing. And I mean, I've always admired that about him. He really marched to his own tune and was doing what he could and doing what he wanted. And like the people that he worked with, and, I've always been impressed. And it was always interesting. I believe this one has a thing on that, but his photographs that he would often take to reference for a lot of these drawings, I thought was a nice touch. And much like artists like Clinton Langley these days, and other people that take, photo manipulation and do work in the comics field with that stuff, I always thought that was kind of cool. Just the use of lighting was well beyond what other people were doing in terms of comic work at the time. And, well, being a mutant world, there are plenty of mutants. You've got your post-apocalyptic stuff. There's a lot of fun to be had, and then I'm just going to skip ahead to the sequel, which, honestly, I mean, I never liked Corben's comic art for whatever reason. I mean, I always associated him with his painted stuff, his den stuff, and so it took me a while to really appreciate what he was doing with pages like this. And I mean, the recoloring on these, I feel, are just gorgeous. And again, it's not a mutant world story without plenty of mutants, monsters, lizards. And action, of course. $2 whole. It says it was in color. I swear it was in black and white. I feel like it was in black and white. Maybe I'm losing my mind. I know I had black and white Corben comics at one point or another. The artist and his protege. It is kind of cool just seeing Bruce Jones in there, of course. The reference materials for a lot of these things. I mean, he was like making his own animated films back in the late 60s. The dude just was all over the place in terms of what he enjoyed and what I mean, he left a mark, and he's always left a major impression on me. So the fact that we've got so many of his works coming out in hardcover in the near future on Amazon, I'm putting a pre-order link for you. Maybe if you discover this after they've already been, made available to the public, well, hey, congratulations. You are going to be getting some cool stuff. So while this book may be a bit harder to find, I would absolutely wholeheartedly recommend, if anybody's interested in comics history, in just quality artwork, in modern fantasy that absolutely influenced a ton of the artists that we have today, do take a look at Corben's stuff, because, yeah, I know I will be, and we'll be doing that on this channel too. So, yeah. With that said, then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.